Hi, Jacqueline Foster here. So excited to be back. And I have a question for you. Have you ever started a project and you're feeling really, really good about the project? You're doing really well. So what you do is you just keep working on it, keep driving yourself and driving yourself. But as you're driving yourself, you find you get to that point where you actually become really tired and you start using words like I'm burnt out, I'm exhausted, things like that. What I want to talk about today is something called the pendulum of productivity versus pleasure. So you can see a little bit about how when we get into this place of extremes, it can actually be harmful to us. So what we want to do is find more of the balance. So as we're moving into this place of burnout, and I actually have a pendulum to show this, but what do you think is going to happen if I'm pushing beyond productivity? Am I going to swing back and just come right back into balance? No, right? The laws of the universe are going to tell me that if I'm going to push past a burnout, I'm going to go to the other extreme. I'm going to go to the other end of it. And what normally is going to happen, right, is I'm going to seek some type of break, some type of pleasurable activity. But if I am having a tendency to be all or nothing and to really drive myself and then really look for this kind of extreme break, chances are I'm going to be moving in more of this place of extreme. And it's going to feel a little bit more like a battle and more tiring, as opposed to finding this place of balance between being productive and having breaks and really having this nice flowing swing, which I think that, I know that finding more of that swing feels a lot better than really moving back and forth from these extremes. And I can tell you, I definitely lived in these extremes for a while. And I always felt like I was overcompensating for something I just did. I just ate too much, so I would work out too much. I just worked really hard on trying to get something done, so I felt like I needed to sleep for a really long period of time. And the really important thing I noticed, and a reflection I'd like to offer you, is asking yourself, when you are seeking activities for pleasure, I want you to ask, are you feeling like you have to do something, extreme? And if you are feeling like you're having to do something kind of extreme and rebellious, when you do that, are you feeling good afterwards? Or is it something that's really making you feel like, oh, I wish I didn't do that? Or, either in the short term or the long term, oh, I know this isn't serving me. And usually if we're honest with ourselves, we're going to know whether that's not serving us. So what can you do? One, ask yourself, how far are you pushing yourself to be productive? And is it getting to the point where you do feel that burnout? So one, are you pushing yourself into burnout? And ask yourself, if you're tired, if you're exhausted, if you're feeling like you need a break, chances are it's good to ask yourself, what do you need? And then on the second end of it, moving on to that extreme on the pleasure end, what activities are you choosing when you get to that point of burnout, of really pushing yourself? And are those activities things that you enjoy and that leave you fulfilled, or are they things that afterwards you're like, oh, why did I do that? I wish I didn't do that. So having yourself reflect on that. And then, so reflecting on those two questions is really big. It can give you a lot of insight. And then the second thing is just to think about, if I have this pendulum going back from extreme to extreme, how do I begin to get it back in balance? And what I want to suggest to you, and this sounds really counterintuitive if we're coming from a space of all or nothing, do it all or do nothing and go crazy. So what we can go into is this space of really allowing ourselves to be productive and acknowledging when we're productive, and then also really acknowledging and honoring when we need a break, when we're seeking for pleasure, and to give ourselves that pleasure in a way that makes us feel good short term and long term. So these are really good activities to explore, and then find these small ways to jot these things down when you do them, and then to ask yourself, how do I feel? And these are things that I feel it's really helpful to have, things that take like 1 to 2 minutes to do, and also things that might take a little bit longer. So maybe taking a deep breath as a break, taking a little walk around the block, really honoring that it doesn't matter how long it takes. What matters is just you give yourself a break that you really honor. So I hope this has been helpful. I encourage you to think about where you are on this pendulum of productivity versus pleasure, and to reflect a little bit on whether or not your swing is serving you, and if there's a way you can bring that swing back to a bit more of balance. I know this has served me in a huge way and really helped me to find more balance. So I encourage you to share your experiences. I'd love to hear more about them, and I look forward to sharing more in the future. Thanks so much.